right. So today, let's take a deep dive into something that I think you'll find pretty fascinating. The career of a missionary.
Okay.
Now, I know what you might be thinking.
Yeah.
Spreading the gospel, right?
Yeah.
Sharing the good word. That's kind of the traditional view.
Right.
But it turns out, and this is what's so interesting, there's a whole lot more to it than that, especially in, today's world.
Yeah.
We're using RoleCatcher.com as our guide today.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some really interesting data-driven insights into what this career path actually looks like. Now, like, if you want to be a missionary today,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Not just like 100 years ago, but like now.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
definitely not your grandparents' mission field anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What's really interesting is how the role itself is shifting, like you were saying.
All right.
We're seeing, a move away from that traditional image of someone just focused solely on, religious conversion.
Right.
Instead, there's a real emphasis now on community development,
Okay.
social justice,
Yeah.
really, really getting embedded in the fabric of a community and working towards lasting change from within,
Okay, you said lasting change,
Yeah.
and I'm curious about how that plays out practically.
Yeah.
I mean, the RoleCatcher Guide emphasizes this kind of unexpected blend of skills.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, theology is huge. I mean, they've got it at 86%
Yeah.
emphasis,
Right. Right.
which makes sense.
Right,
Makes sense.
critical.
I mean, you got to know what you're talking about, right? If you're going to be a missionary. But right alongside that, you've got customer service at 79%.
It's true.
And then education and training at 73%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to picture how those all fit together.
Yeah.
I mean, are we sending out missionaries to run call centers now?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
So effective communication, you said it.
Okay.
It is definitely key.
Okay.
I mean, think of it this way. Missionaries, they aren't just delivering a message anymore,
Okay.
They're often dealing with incredibly complex social issues.
Yeah.
Like, take, for example, a missionary working in a remote village, right?
Okay.
They might need to assess the local economy,
Right.
identify the root causes of poverty in that specific context,
Yeah.
and then work with the community to develop solutions that are actually sustainable. And all of this has to be done while navigating cultural differences, sensitivities.
Oh, wow.
So you can kind of see where customer service,
So,
understanding people's needs, and being able to teach and facilitate all kind of come into play.
yeah.
You see the connection there.
So it's almost like they need a blend of what we might even consider like corporate skills
Yeah,
alongside their kind of, theological background.
that's right.
I mean, is that a fair?
You're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, it's true.
Okay.
And the RoleCatcher Guide, it actually backs that up.
Okay.
They list social perceptiveness, reading comprehension, speaking clearly, even coordination as top soft skills for missionaries.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, these aren't, just nice to haves. They're essential
Oh, wow.
for building trust, managing resources effectively,
Yeah.
making a real impact.
Right.
It's really about understanding the needs of a community and working collaboratively towards solutions.
That's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
It sounds like missionary work today requires a whole different kind of toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about faith. It's about having the practical skills to create real, measurable, lasting change.
Yeah, I like that. Measurable,
Quantifiable. And that makes me wonder about the career path itself.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because
Yeah.
RoleCatcher, they break it down into 4 stages.
Okay.
From those initial entry-level positions all the way up to senior leadership roles.
Mhm.
And what's fascinating is that it's not always a linear progression.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Not a linear progression. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do they mean by that?
Well, so somebody, they might start with those short-term mission trips.
Yeah.
Kind of get their feet wet
Yeah.
with some hands-on experience, even before, even before they dive into formal theological training.
Gotcha.
And that's something that RoleCatcher specifically suggests,
Right.
even for people who are just exploring the field.
Okay.
Get out there, try a short-term trip, see if it resonates with you.
I have to admit, I hadn't really thought of it like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a real-world
Mm-hmm.
crash course
It is.
in cross-cultural service, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, given what we're learning about the kind of skills that are needed.
Right.
But then, like you said, there's this whole progression. So what happens as someone, moves up in the ranks? Like,
Right.
how's the focus shift?
You're right. The higher you go, the more the focus kind of shifts towards strategy and
Yeah.
leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Think of a senior missionary, right?
Okay.
They're essentially, running a faith-based NGO at that point.
Wow.
Maybe even managing long-term partnerships with other organizations.
Right.
They're analyzing data
Really?
to make sure that their programs are actually having, the intended impact.
Wow.
They're mentoring other missionaries.
That's a lot.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Wow. So it's like being like the CEO of social good,
Yeah.
almost,
Very much so, yeah.
You're responsible not just for like your own work,
Mm.
but for guiding and shaping the work of a whole team.
Organization, a whole team, yeah.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
with this level of responsibility and with the field constantly evolving,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do missionaries stay current?
Right. Right.
I mean, it's not like the old days, right?
Right.
Where you learn a few hymns and you're good, you're set for life. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not. You're right. It's a continuous learning process.
Okay.
RoleCatcher, I mean, they really hammered that point home.
Okay.
They talked about the importance of attending conferences,
Okay.
plugging into online forums where
Mhm.
missionaries are, sharing best practices and challenges.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Even pursuing advanced degrees in relevant fields.
Interesting.
The world is changing fast.
Challenges are complex.
Yeah.
And staying ahead of the curve is absolutely crucial.
And that's where I think things get really interesting
No,
because
that's it.
RoleCatcher doesn't just leave it at stay curious.
Right.
They're bringing some pretty high-tech tools to the table.
It's true.
They mentioned AI-powered CV tailoring, which is pretty impressive.
That's right.
And then they have this massive database of over 120,000 interview questions.
It's huge.
It's like having like a digital career coach in your pocket,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to just how competitive, this field has become.
Wow.
Even for missionary work, like, you need an edge, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about passion anymore. It's
Yeah.
about being able to articulate your skills,
Okay.
your experience, the impact you've made, and being able to really showcase that in a compelling way.
And that's something that RoleCatcher seems to understand. They emphasize the importance of
Yeah.
being able to like showcase your transferable skills, which is huge
Oh, it's essential.
in a field as diverse as this one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You might have someone, for example, who spent years,
Right.
building wells in rural Africa,
Right.
competing for a position with someone who has a background in, like, social work or education.
Yeah.
And being able to connect the dots to show how your experiences translate into valuable skills. That's, that's what can make all the difference.
Okay. It's funny going through all of this.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that my own view of missionary work was a little outdated,
Mm-hmm.
to say the least. I had this image in my head of like something simpler, maybe even a bit romanticized,
Yeah.
But the reality is
Right.
it's a demanding career path,
It is.
incredibly complex,
Mm.
and more relevant now than ever, I think,
Yeah.
given the state of the world
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges that we're facing,
It is.
like it's really something.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see
Yeah.
how it's evolving.
Because at its core, you
Yeah.
still have those fundamental values, right?
Yeah.
Of faith and service driving everything.
Yeah.
But the way those values are put into action, right?
Right.
The methods,
Yeah.
the skill set required,
Right.
the sheer scale of the problems being tackled. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's all changing
Yeah.
at an incredible pace.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that brings us to kind of the big question, doesn't it?
It does.
If this is where things are at now,
Right.
what does the future hold for missionary work?
Right.
Where do you see this all going?
That's the million-dollar question. I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if I had to speculate,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're moving toward a world where faith-based organizations are even more on the front lines of social change. We're talking about them working hand in hand with governments, with NGOs,
Okay.
to tackle issues like poverty, inequality,
Yeah.
climate change, all these really interconnected global challenges.
Yeah.
And the people, leading the charge, they're going to need to be incredibly well-rounded.
Yeah.
A deep understanding of theology, absolutely. But
Mhm.
also expertise in things like data analysis, international development, conflict resolution.
Wow.
I mean, really, you name it.
So a future where faith and very concrete, measurable action are even more intertwined, driving real, tangible progress.
That's it.
That's an inspiring thought to leave us with.
Yeah, I like that.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more informed.
Me too.
Okay, good.
It's always a fascinating conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening, we hope this has given you a new perspective on what it means to be a missionary in the 21st century.
Yeah.
It's a career path that's both challenging and, as we've learned, deeply rewarding.
Absolutely.
And it's evolving faster than ever.
That's right.
So until next time,
yes,
keep asking questions,
keep learning,
keep exploring, and keep diving deep.